All right. So welcome everybody. It is 3 o'clock on the East Coast here, and this is November 4th, and this is the November ArcGIS Pro Workshop, during which we're going to actually be going over just some simple labeling. This is sort of very fundamental things. But what we're really going to do is we're also going to talk about Arcade and how to go and use Arcade for labeling expressions. And we'll see the similarities between Arcade and Visual Basic and maybe some differences between the two. And we'll explore that a little bit. So it's the main focus here is labels. And how do you work with labels inside of Pro? And how do you go and set them up? And we'll eventually go and create label classes and talk about label classes there. So this is just a class about labels inside of ArcGIS Pro. So just a reminder, Chris is here. Chris is going to moderate. All right. And so he's going to be watching over the chat window. And any questions you might have, go ahead and put them in the chat window. And if it's something simple enough, Chris will relay it to me. And if not, then we'll go and we'll flip on your mics so that you can actually talk back and forth, and we'll go through with that also. All right, so while I'm starting, if you have any questions, anything you'd like to see about labeling, please definitely put them in the chat window and we'll start loading those up. Otherwise, let's sort of get started on here. So again, this is ArcGIS Pro 2.6, actually 2.6.2, and on here, it is, sorry about that. On here, I have just a data set. It turns out that this is a parcel fabric data set, but that really doesn't matter. This is just a regular old data set with polygon features. It's got line features and point features in here, but we're going to focus for a while on the polygon features and labeling the polygon features on here. So let's start with, how do you even get to the labeling elements in here inside of ArcGIS Pro? And traditionally, you would, when you're in here, you'd be editing something, and anytime you have a link on a specific layer, for example, if I go and select the tax parcels here, if I watch my ribbon, it will automatically go and say, well, there's certain things you can do with this layer, that thing you've selected. You can change the appearance on here, in which I tell it to go and change the translucency or when it's shown, those sorts of things. The next one over is labeling, which is overall just some general labeling that you can do quickly on here. The other one, by the way, is just data, but we're not going to deal with that, just the labeling today. Before I start, let me go and give you one of these quick tips that, actually there's two quick tips that I just discovered. I'm always looking for shortcuts to do things, and I found two today. So the first one is, when I am on my ribbon, if I go up to my ribbon and I want to switch my ribbon over, if I have a mouse with a scroll wheel on it, while on the ribbon, if I move the scroll, if I, yeah, go ahead. Let me go and see here, go back here. If I scroll back and forth, and why is it, there we go. When I hit the scroll while I'm on my ribbon, it actually scrolls through all the various tabs that are open. So I can very quickly go to edit, or I can go to map, or I can go over to records. I don't know how much faster that is than actually going and moving your mouse up there and clicking it, but I thought it was pretty interesting because I was not aware of that shortcut. And while I was looking at that and showing that to one of my clients, he said, yeah, but you know, there's one more. If you are on there and you hold down the Alt key the Alt key on here, the Alt key will actually go and show you shortcuts. So these are the shortcuts for the various tabs. So for example, if I want to go to the map tab, I can click Alt M, and it will take me to the map tab. So that while I have this, I can go, and again, maybe Alt R, again. So Alt key will go and show me all of the shortcuts on here. These are shortcut variations. And if I've got my quick access toolbar modified, it actually will show me all of the Alt key shortcuts to get over to those. Again, things I didn't know before, but they seem to be a nice little addition on here. We're always looking for shortcuts and ways to get around things. So let's get back to labeling. All right. So on labeling, there's sort of some standard things we want to look at here. In order to go and label a feature class, in order to be able to label a layer, we have to at least have a default feature class that it's going to go and work with. We can access that default feature class here, or if we want to, if we click over in the table of contents tab, table of contents pane, there, the last button here is list by label. List by label sort of feels like the old ArcMap label manager. All right, it gives us access to all of these, and inside of here, we can then go and click on any of these. And when we click on them again, you'll see up here as I'm clicking on here, it brings up specifically the settings for that one label class. And again, I have 3 label classes for my tax parcels, only because I want to go and work through them and show you some different things that we can do with it. All right, so let's start. So when we're here, we'll talk about the simple things. So by default, we have here is the class, the label class. Here is the attribute field that we're going to go and use. In this case, we're going to use the name field. Here is labeling, turning labeling on and off, and then labeling this feature class. And when I click here, you'll see it turn off. And when I click here, you'll see this label feature class turn on again. That's the layer and the label class here. And then we go over to visibility scale, in which we tell it when to turn the labels on and when to turn the labels off. So in this case, I'm at 1846. So if I say turn this off at 1800, you will see that those labels turned off. They are not on at all. I can set it back to none and you'll see the labels on here. So you can set the visibility when you zoom in and zoom out and when those labels appear. Again, this is the same as ArcMap, but just the interface to get into it, it's a little bit clearer, a little bit more unified than it used to be. Then we've got a gallery of predefined options for us, similar to what we used to have in ArcMap. These are predefined. And we have the options for all of the various fonts in here. The fonts, whether or not each of them has regular and bold and any variations on them, the sizes, and then we can increase or decrease the size with these. And then finally the color here on this. Now, one of the things you will notice, and it's different, radically different from ArcMap, is that as soon as you make a change on this, it automatically is applied. So when I change these texts, the color of the font from black to red, it automatically changed them. When I change it to bold, it automatically changed those. There is no apply button here. And this is one of one of Esri's attempts to go and simplify the user interface, make it more intuitive. There are times when it works well, times when it doesn't work well. But just remember, any change that you make up here is automatically in there. All right. So we have that. When we move over further, label placement. This goes and defines how these labels are actually placed in here. And here's the 6 standard label placements that we have. By the way, it utilizes now the Maplex engine, which is a rule-based engine to go and figure out where do I put my labels. But you've got the standard 6 for polygons. Is it curved? Is it a basic polygon? Is it in the boundary? Is it a land parcel? Water elongated or watermark in here on there. And then finally, here's some map controlling how the maps are, whether the labels are paused or locked, whether you can view the unplaced and other elements on here. And again, whether or not you wish to use the standard Maplex or whether you want to use the old Esri label engine on there. Okay. Chris, I see that Mark was saying instead of listing recent fonts, can we list favorite fonts? That is a really good point, Mark. I don't know. I don't see here yet whether or not any favorites on here. I don't believe at the moment you do have a favorites for your fonts yet. We'll see as we go over here whether we have those. I don't think we do have those at all.
What about default fonts? Alex wants to know.
This is a good question. I don't think you have default fonts at these at all. I think it actually is going to go and utilize whatever is available in that font set, the default font set, and which is all of this. So I can go and change this. Sorry. Here, go to more and say project styles. I can define them according to the styles for a project, but I don't see where you can actually go and type in favorites or defaults for anything else on here. All right. I do know that you do have recent fonts here, but I don't know where you have. So let's go back here. I don't see, sorry. Nope, I'm trying to go and put in here somewhere favorites and show those, and I don't see those. So when I see that Paulette is saying if you add your styles to your map, they will be there. If you save a new font, it will be in your favorites. Interesting. So if I have a separate style set, is that correct, Paulette? Yeah, and I can then have favorites in there. I'm constantly learning these things. Thank you. All right. So those are just sort of setting these parameters of these fonts and these labels and such in here. What I want to do is talk about how you can go and change the contents of what's actually shown on within the label in here. So let's go and explore a little bit this tax parcel polygon feature class, and we can see that we have a name field which has dashes in it. We have a map sheet. We have a latitude and a longitude. We have a property ID, stated area, and acres, and an area label, and a calculated area. Let's just modify, let's just focus on some of those in here. So when we start an individual feature class. Let's make sure that when I pull this down, I can see that I'm working with, let's talk about how to get to this label class. I can go here to my table of contents and right click and say label properties, and it will bring up this label class properties, and this is sort of where we're at right now. And as I change my layer class, my label class in which I'm working, you'll see that the name pops up here, so you can actually see what you're working on. You want to pay attention to that, especially if you have multiple label classes inside of any single feature class that you're working with. So on here, you've got, this is the label expression and some of the variations on the label expression. You've got an actual SQL query. We'll actually work with that a little bit later. And then you've got what's the visibility range on here. And if you remember, when we go up here, we have the visibility range here. This is the visibility range here. And this is the SQL query. And if we notice over here, we actually have a SQL button, which allows us to write a SQL query. When I say SQL query, what's it say? We could go in and write a query which defines only show these labels on here. Again, we'll do that in a little bit. Go ahead and continue. All right. So these are the elements which allow us to control what's going to be displayed and when is it going to be displayed. Again, what is the label going to say? What selection set is it going to go and display those against? And then at what scales are they going to be displayed? Then we go over to symbols, and we have a whole lot of options in here. If we first look at the general symbols, we have things such as what's up here. What is the appearance? What's the font name? What's the font style? The size? What's the variations on that font? Is it underlined? Is it strike through? And what position is it in? What's the case of it? Is it uppercase, lowercase, small caps? What's the position? And then we have here, is there an offset to this on here? Is there a rotation on here? Do we have a halo? Whether or not we have a halo, and what's the halo color and width? What's the halo size? And then, is there a drop shadow on here? Is there a call out? A call out is when, in fact, you might have a simple line going there. It might have a background behind it, and what the symbol on the point is, the balloon, and such. Hopefully we'll get through all of this. We probably won't, but we'll get through all of this. And that's just on the general. Then we have formatting. How is it formatted? What spaces? So you get a whole lot of variations in here. Paragraphs, how it's handling paragraphs on here, and whether or not it's international. Then we have other variations, for example, the position. What is the position in here? Is it the regular placement inside of here? Do we have land parcel, river parcel, boundary parcel? How is it actually drawn? Is it horizontal? Is it straight? Is it curved? That sort of thing. If it's a point, it can tell you whether or not it's measured from the geometry. Actually, this can be measured inside the geometry where it goes. Orientation, leader lines, and then how do we spread the labels out? That's just the position. Then we also have how do you fit it inside of here. Again, this is like you go down deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Things such as if it doesn't fit where I say it's supposed to fit, do you stack these? What separators do you have? What about overruns? Do you reduce the size so it fits? What abbreviations might you have? And the order in which they're running. And one more set of settings. Do you remove duplicates? And if you remove a duplicate, Is it within a fixed different distance, or do you remove all duplicates on here? Do you repeat these after a value? What's the minimum feature size for you to go and actually put it in there? Label the largest part if it's a multi-part. Unplaced, whether or not you have labels that don't fit and you want them to be placed anyway, you can do that. And then background labels, whether they get placed no matter what. There's a lot of complexity built in, but we're going to try to at least look at some of the simplistic parts of it. So let's start with just how do you build this label? What's going to be on here? And on this, you'll actually see that you have, this is the name, this is the value that's stored in the name field of that individual feature. So just to be able to read Arcade, what this says is that this $ feature means for each individual feature, take the value that's stored in the name field. All right, that's the way to read it. $ feature says for every single feature that's in here, place the value out of here and put it in here. So let's start. There's some simple string variables that are in here. In this case, these are old numbers. So let's just start by saying, maybe we'll want to go and put a prefix on top of this, in which we can say parcel equals, and then use double quotes, and then I'm going to put a plus sign here. The plus sign concatenates these things together. So I can say, put the text string of parcel equals with a space, and then add the value here. When I hit apply, it will go and put in there parcel equals and then the same. But you'll note that some of these are one line, others are multiple lines, and that depends upon how I've set all my positioning set up to be, whether I tell it to go ahead and decide whether it fits on one line or not. Just we're not going to get too much into that at the moment, but so that's how we go and concatenate things together on here. I'm going to tell it just go back to this. So concatenating things, just use the plus sign to go and add things together. So to show you that, let's go and add to this the value that's stored in the stated area field on here. And you can see what I've got is I've gone and added the value that's stored in here, but there's no separator here. There's nothing to delineate what these things are intending to be. So let me go and add a piece of text, a string, that's just a dash. All right, and it will go and show me, okay, let's go ahead and add those and put it in here. And I now have a dash between the actual parcel number and the actual stated area or stated area value that's stored inside of here. All right, the stated area field is a number field. Let's just go back here, go ahead and commit that, and just open up the attribute table just to see what this is. So one of the interesting things we want to be aware of is that the stated area field that it's giving us back, example right here, this is the parcel, and then here's the stated area. Well, this stated area goes out to 4 decimal places. But if I actually were to go and look at this, if I actually go and do a select on this one here, all right, and say there it is there. Let's show it here. It's actually in my actual attribute table, it's set to only show me 2 decimal places, but the value that's actually stored in the database, in this case, is carried out to 4 decimal places. So I want to be aware of that when I'm going and building this, so that perhaps what I want to do, this is the default, let's go to the workshop. Perhaps what I want to do is I want to go and take this value and I wish to round it to 2 decimal places. I'd say, well, now take that and round it to 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places. So it'll allow me to go and do that. Let's add after this a piece of text, AC on here. You want to make sure you always close your double quotes on here and have it set up that way. By the way, I hate Times New Roman. All right, so simple so far up to this point. There are a couple more things I want to do though. In this case, sometimes this is coming out in 1 line, sometimes it's coming out in 2 lines. I want to make sure that it always breaks onto 2 lines on here. So rather than putting a dash between these two, what I'm going to do is use another arcade variable in here. And this is called text formatting. Let's make sure I spell this correctly. It is not spelled correctly. Is it test format? There we go. Text formatting. Text formatting dot new line actually is the arcade equivalent of, in VB scripting, VB new line. It puts a new character return on there and make sure that your labels are on 2 separate lines in here. So now when we do this, it will automatically make sure that there is a new line placed in there, and it goes and puts it in there. All right. So let's say we want to go and do something else now. Let's say we actually want to go and have that /n. It also works for new lines. So why do they want me to do the text formatting thing? Ceph, it's actually very interesting because, yeah, there is this thing in here where I can go and put /n in here. Is that a string in here that we put in here? And do it that way, and it will do the same thing. Is it single quotes, or because it actually just work with double quotes also on there? I think that what's happening there is actually utilizing a text formatting tag on here, and let's talk about that. Let me go in. New line in here. If I could spell, I'll be much better off here. Let's apply this. So let's talk about, there's also additional things you can do in here, because this right now is just taking that same string and just applying it the same way. Well, there's also a whole set of elements in here called formatting tags. And I'm opening this help file just on here. which allows us map engine, labeling expressions, good. Yeah. All right, so let's do it by this way. So let's say I wanted to make this bold. I could go in here and utilize an expression that says, go ahead and make this bold. Now these bold tags, these text formatting tags, look an awful lot like HTML text on here. Go and put a plus sign in here and test this. So that when I do this, this will make the first line here, the first portion of this text as bold formatting. So it allows me to interject inside this labeling string how it's actually supposed to be formatted. And these formatting tags are everything from bold and italics to font size to color, all of those things in here. So I can individually change each of those. But Steph, to go and sort of speculate, I suspect that's what that /n is. It's actually a formatting tag that's being utilized, even though you don't have to put the tag parameters around it. I suspect that's what's happening on there. And my only concern is you want to make sure that that's applicable across all of the ArcGIS products. I don't know if it is acceptable throughout all of them. Not quite sure on that. But I know that within Arcade, the text formatting.newline is the approved and validated. This is the way to go and put a new line inside of here. All right. So let's go and do something a little bit more on here. So we've got our tag saying, okay, here is this, and this is, here's the parcel number on here, and here is the stated area with a piece of string after that. But let's get a little bit more intense here, because these parcel numbers actually have dashes inside of there. So perhaps, just to sort of stretch this out a little bit, maybe we want to take all of those dashes out. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply a new portion of this here, and we're going to replace in the name field, and I'm going to put a comma here. What we're going to replace is this dash, and then we're going to replace it with just no dashes in here. And we're going to check and verify this. So what this will do is this will, by default, take the dashes out of the name and put nothing in there in return. All right, so let's let that finish, and there we go. So it will go, and we can use the replace on here to go and take dashes out of this. And it will go and search the entire name string. It will search that entire value, and every time it finds that, whatever that first variable is, or the first parameter, and replace it with the second parameter. So if we wanted to, we could go in there and say, well, instead of that, let's replace it with a dash like this. Say go ahead, and it actually is, if we note, it's actually replacing the dashes with little slashes. Well, let's put a space before it and a space after it, make it a little bit clearer. Let's give it enough room in here. and it's going and doing that. So using Arcade allows us to go and really manipulate and change the values that are in there to be more reflective of what we're looking for. So I'm going to go and take a bunch of things off of here. I'm going to take the bold off on here and here. All right. I'm going to go and take this replace off. Just take it back to the name field in here. There it is. It does have that new line being introduced in there again. So let's explore this a little bit more. What other things can we do with Arcade and the way we set up our label to go and figure out things? For example, perhaps if, and again, I'm not even sure how this is put through here. I suspect if I look at this, this is the parcel ID, and this turns out that this is lot number 5, and this is lot number 4, and this is lot number 3. So what we could do is we could create a new feature class in here, or yeah, let's do that. Let's go to the default one now. And in this case, with this default one, I wanted to go and just do the right three characters from this. So let me go and real simply go ahead and do this. Turn this off and turn this on. And let's also turn this off so we don't see that. So here we can actually go and create, let's go back in here. We can create a label that only goes and shows the last 3 digits for this label by using the left. And so we have the left, excuse me, we have the right, and then we have the left on here. We could tell it to just do the left on there, or we could tell it to go and take the left 3, then put a new line in, and then go and do the right 3 on here to go and do that. All right. Again, these are fairly simple ways of doing this, but what I really want to demonstrate more than anything else on here is how does this compare to Visual Basic and what we've been doing? Because this is all right now being done in Arcade. All right. So let's do a new thing here. Let's look at this parcel again, and let's look at what's value is on here. So this has got 5 decimal or 5 characters, and then it's got 3 characters here and then 3 more. So maybe we should change this to 5 to be more reflective of that. So that's the subdivision name. And then maybe this is the block, and then this is the lot on here. So let's add another element in here right before this, in which we want to take these 3 characters here and pull them out. And we do that by utilizing a text string manipulation called mid. All right, let's go and we do the lazy part here. So on the mid is very interesting because on the mid, what you need to do is you need to tell it where to start and then how many to go and capture. Well, in Visual Basic, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Start at 7. So we say 7, and to capture 3 on here. Let's check that. Let's apply it and see what happens. Oh, one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and capture 3 on here. Well, the interesting thing is that Arcade, it differs from Visual Basic, and that Visual Basic starts with the number 1. It is called 1 indexed, whereas Arcade is 0 indexed, so that when actually finding what position to start at, instead of starting at 1, you start at 0. So it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is where this should be if we're going and using the mid command. And then we're telling it to take 3 out of the middle on here. There you go. All right. So that's one of the differences that I've discovered early on, was that Visual Basic is 1 indexed, whereas Arcade is 0 indexed on here. So you want to be aware of that. It doesn't bother you with most of the things like the lefts and rights and bold and all these other things, but for the mid function, you do want to be aware of those differences, how it counts the positions on here. Position 0 is the beginning position, not position 1 on here. All right. Any questions on anything yet so far? I've gone over an awful lot just already on here.
We don't have anything immediate in the chat.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go and build on this a little bit more. Right now, this is just the default. We've set up this as a feature class. We've turned off all the other feature classes, so this is the only one that's being displayed right now. And let's go and get a little bit trickier with this and say that we only want this. We only want the right 3. We only want the right 3 if this is less than an acre in size. All right. So in this case, let's go and just take everything here and say this is the right 3. We only want the right 3 on here. If this is less than an acre in size. So what we'll do is we'll set, let's go ahead and commit that. Then we'll set an expression here. And the expression will be if the stated area is less than or equal to 0. I say 1 acre, didn't I? 1 acre. And apply that. So notice what happened when I did that. I had a label here that disappeared. There were labels here that disappeared. So now this is only going to go and label those smaller areas in here that are less than an acre in size. And this is again only labeling the tax parcels on here. So let's go back to this workstation or the workshop one. This is the one where we had this element in here in which we had the tax parcel and we had this. And let's set a SQL expression on that that says show this when the stated area is greater than 1. On here, And then we'll go in here to labeling, and a workshop will actually go and turn this one on. So in this case, it is going to go ahead and utilize, Tamara, thanks for joining. I'm going to go and stop doing the webcam sharing, if you don't mind. All right. So in this case, this is now, I now have two label classes. The first one is going, and if the parcel is more than an acre in size, it will go and write out my full parcel name on here. It will then put a new line in here and then round the stated acreage values, and then place after that this AC open parens S close parens on it. So we'll go and do that. But that's only if the area is greater than an acre. I haven't done anything yet as far as scale displays or anything else. Just setting up basically these label classes and how it goes and displays them. So now that I've got that for this one, let's go back to my default class, which is the one that's set up to be smaller than an acre. And let's go in here, and this now is showing the right tree here on this. So now we've got basically the contents of what we want to go and see. Let's go and play around with a little bit some of the formatting on here. So we'll go from here. We'll do it easier up here. So we're using the default on here. You know, let's go and change that default value on here. Let me see if I can do it here. The labeling properties. Looking here, where do I change this? I did discover one time how to actually change these. Nope, I guess not. I thought there was a place that we could do that. Nope. All right, so I've got those. I'm going to go and change this so that instead of this being Century Gothic, maybe I'll go and Calibri, and I'll make this 9 points. All right, and I'll make this a gray. And again, remember, I don't like that. Immediately it goes and is reinforced on here. So it immediately begins to show that. But maybe I want to go and put a symbol on here. Maybe I want to put an outline on here. So I'll go to Halo and say, go ahead and put a white halo on here. Now here, I still have to hit apply. Up here, I don't. So just be aware that there's a difference as far as whether you have to hit apply or not on this. All right, and this halo, this is the how wide it extends past the actual numbers. So as I go and expand this out, you will see those expanding out on there. Usually I just use 1 point beyond, so I just want to see it past there on there. All right, let's go back now to my workshop labels, and let's change that a little bit more. Maybe I don't want that to be, maybe I do want it to be Calibri, and I'll make this bold on here, and maybe I'll make this 12 point. These are bigger files. So notice again, it goes and automatically does everything in that string for that. All right, so how could I change that? I could go back to my class and say, well, maybe I only want this name to be bold. Got to end that with that. And when I start it, I also have to go and end it with this slash on there. And now I want the rest of it to be regular. So let's go back here and make this regular. And it uses the bold variation of my font, but it uses the regular for bold variation here because of using the formatting tags, but everything else is still regular on here. All right, do we want to talk any more about setting up the strings themselves or the formatting of the strings on them? Notice, by the way, here is some simultaneous conveyances, and these are some things, but these are larger than an acre. So we don't see, let's turn this off so we don't get confused. All right, any questions yet on any of this?
Nothing right now.
Wow.
No.
I'm either really boring or nobody can think of things to say right now. Let's explore a little bit about the symbols and the position and how this all works on here. So let's go to symbols. This is again the symbol sets that we're doing. Let's look at position. So on the position, we have the ability to do regular placement. So what does this mean? This means it's just going to look for the normal position within polygons on here. But there's also a thing called land parcel placement that we as parcel people tend to use a little bit more. And it can tell you whether or not you want to avoid holes, whether it's supposed to be straight or curved inside of here. And let's see if we can find something that is curved in here. It probably won't do anything in here. I can tell it to say straight inside the polygon. And I can also go in here. Let's go back here to the standard placement and say try horizontal first. And it will then we should start seeing some changes in here. Regular placement. May place the label outside. I'm looking at here. Thought there was places where it would actually go and rotate this, because I've seen this before where it actually begins rotating these around here. So that these still are straight, but they become vertical instead. And I don't see that happening here at all. All right.
Mark says remove overrun to change orientation.
The overrun is where I don't have any overrun set.
Oh, that says you're on default.
Yeah, I'm on default right now. Yeah. I don't see any up in here. So let's again, here's the placement. Avoid putting them inside a hole. So if there's a hole here, we'll go and put it on the outside of it, put it straight, try the horizontal first, and we'll go from there. So let's talk about whether or not it stacks them. Again, I've already got some stacking going on here, but whether or not it stacks them, what it uses to go and use as separators, it uses a space and it splits afterwards, or it uses a comma that might be visible, maximum number of lines and such. The overrun, I don't have an overrun set here. I can tell it to reduce the font size so that it automatically goes and will fit things inside here. But because I've got this other thing set, we may not see much of that. See if we can find where it's. See if I can zoom out and get it to place. And here we go. This is actually, no, it should be placing it inside of there. Key numbers, strategic order. Whether to remove duplicates, I can tell it to go and remove any duplicates. So every 2 here is going to be removed. Well, this is actually on the default. Yep. Anything that was duplicated here was removed, or I can say remove it within a set number of points. If it's within 50 points here, again, I can see there's certain things there, maybe within 10 feet of one another. So if any of these repeat within 10 feet of one another, that can go and tell it to remove that. Whether or not to repeat it, I don't want to go and do that. I can set up a buffer and tell it how far to buffer around another label on here. So one of the things we're going to find as you're going through here is there's so many variables, you almost have to just go through and try those. Thank you again, Paulette, that this was against here that I was doing this, and I had stacked labels in here, regular placement, and I was looking to go and change these. And I said straight. I should be seeing some of the, there you go. Thank you, Paulette. Thank you. I was on the wrong label class on here. So on here, I told it regular placement, but to go and make it straight. So it's going to make it straight depending upon the orientation and how it best goes and fits these things inside of here. Land placement, we'll go and attempt to do the same thing on here. All right, and as you see it, since it's not fitting some of these in, it's not displaying them anymore. A fixed point within here, on here. All right, so again, within this, there's an awful lot of ways that you can go and have this being displayed in here. And it's so many variations on here. It's almost like you just have to, once you know what your strings are supposed to be and how they're supposed to be formatted and what they're supposed to be displayed like, just go ahead through there and figure out what you want to do. All right. So
Frank, we do have a question in the chat.
Yep.
Is there a way to make an SQL statement to replace values if none are present in the data? E.g., if I'm labeling parcels by lot, block, and plan, and some parcels don't have a block value, can I set the label to say something like not applicable or NA?
I don't think it's a SQL statement. I think it would rather be an arcade expression. All right. We can try this. Maplex and Maplex. So I also, Mark has a question regarding Maplex in
Yes.
ArcMap versus Pro. Mark, I don't, there are differences, but it's my understanding that everything that was in Maplex is still in Pro Maplex, but there's more things in there. The issue is I don't know exactly what else is in there, but I understand there's more things inside of here, more rules, more parameters that you can set exactly, how this is supposed to be done. I don't, if I recall correctly, I don't remember all of these options, all these rule-based options for placement being in the ArcMap part, in the ArcMap Maplex engine on here. So I think there are differences there. All right, so let's play around with this. So we have, let's go in here and do a little bit of editing here, just so we can create something. So if I go and edit this one parcel, all right, and I tell it here that I have no acreage there. All right, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that because that's what's actually being, instead what I'll do is I'll take the stated area there. Let's work through. It's a good question on here. Let's work through this to get to that. Let's explore this a little bit more on here. All right, so I have here, let's go ahead and turn off default. We don't care about that. Only turn on workshop here. Right now, by default, we have, it's showing the stated area in here. So if let's try some arcade here. So I'm going to use the if statement in arcade. So if the calculated area is equal to or is null, to go and input the stated area value, or if not, to go and input the calculated area value on here. And I don't know whether I can do that here. If. The if returns a given value and it's Boolean. And if the logical is true, if the condition is true, then a true value is returned. Otherwise, the value of false is returned. So here's a real good example in here. So it's doing an evaluation of the population in here. If the population is null or if it's less than 10,000, do this and do that. So let's cheat a little bit. So this is checking for the value in the calculated area field. New line, if the acreage is, I I guess null is the correct value on here. Nope. I don't think that's right. I don't think a single is right either. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't want that. Maybe it's his empty. Now, instead of his null. No, no. Could have sworn it was his null here. Is empty, you think, Mark? So it doesn't do it that way. It actually does it this way, correct? If is empty. Right. Sorry. So that's going to give me the variable, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, I mean, that's not going to get me any values coming back out of it though, Mark. So, and it's only a text field, you're right. No, actually, yeah, that is only a text field. So here's the answer. I don't know. Can we set up SQL on here where we'd have to set up different feature classes, right? Or excuse me, different label classes on here. So let's cancel out of here. All right. So we've got this that works. All right. Let's set it up where if the calculate acreage is null, to go and do that. And let's go and create a new feature class. Two, and in this one, it's not null. And let's go and do that. Let's do one more thing here. This is the second one. Let's get rid of this so we can differentiate. And let's just get rid of all this so we can see the difference. So in this one, we said the calculated acreage is not null. And in this one, we said the calculated acreage is null. So isn't this the one that we made the calculated acreage? Oh, sorry. We've got to calc this out to null, I think. No, not even. Oh, I've got a. Let me do this correctly. So I've got stated area here. Let's go back here to label class. Stated area is null. Here. Back to this one where stated area is not null. Obviously, you can tell that I've set this up so that it is on the fly. There's nothing pre-done about this at all. All right, so now, so Mark also put if acreage is true, then we should try that, Mark. Yeah. Mark is also saying that one of the things that we could do is this right here. Go here and we'll do that here. It's at this point here. So var acre, and I'm going to copy yours, Mark. I guess I'm not copying yours here. If acreage is true, then feature acres, otherwise not applicable. Thank you, Mark. Nope. What did we do wrong here? Oh, this is IIF. One F here. There we go. Still not. All right, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to go and move on to the next thing. So get back to, was it Paulette's? Whose question was that? Chris, do you remember whose question it was?
It was Heather's.
Heather's. I'll get back here to her original. Okay, is there a way to make it replace the values if none are present? Okay. So in this case, we now set it up with this parcel right here. Just to make sure, the stated area field is null. All right. So sorry, Heather, for for getting this far in on here. If the stated area is null, we can go in here and instead say, what do we want to say? We want to say not equal or not available my gosh, I am so sorry. I am so sorry, Heather. But yeah, you can do it so that you do that evaluation and determine what to put in there. Yeah, sorry we went down that whole arcade rabbit hole to try to figure out a way to do it inside the label, but this is a simple solution and this might be a good way to go and do it. So with these other ones, the stated area, it had a value in it, and on this one it does not have a value in it, so it's putting a different label up there. Including, because this is a separate feature class, we could also go and make that red, all right, and make everything else black on there. And that's one of the tricks that we sometimes will do, is that if we're missing a value somewhere, an attribute in here, we might have labels that pop up and say, oh, you've got something missing in here, so you just want to make sure that you put something in there. But if you're producing a map for someone and you've got labels, you may want to highlight, for example, where there's been a change in the value of some property. I mean, you can then use it to replace symbols and all sorts of things in here that you can do by doing a combination of the SQL queries, and you can do it with the actual label expression, and you can actually do a lot of it in Arcade. I apologize for not having it set up a little bit better for doing that, but yes, you can do that in Arcade also. Employer is empty. Oh, Mark just put something up there. Sorry, he was testing it. Var. Empty var equals is empty feature shape area. There. Shape area. Interesting. Yeah, so here is, if you're looking over in the chat window, the interesting part about that is in that variable is the if command inside of Arcade. If empty var, which is the variable that's set up that's now filling in all of the Boolean value, true or false, if that Boolean value is set to true or false, put NA or put the shape area in there. Interestingly, Mark, I think that we should be able to go and actually compress that even further, in which you can actually have the evaluation occur in the same if line. And that's where I was struggling. I'm sorry about that, but I was struggling with that. All right, so we explored a little bit. Again, this was supposed to be simple labeling. We went down some rabbit holes here, but before we stop this, let's sort of open this up. Is there anything else you want to see? Anything you want to go and explore a little bit more? As you can see, I'm not afraid of going into places I don't even know whether or not this will work. What else would you like to look at, or what else can we do here to go and answer any questions on here? Anybody have any questions? Anything you want to talk about? If not, I may go and say, let's go ahead and stop this meeting workshop and move into office hours, where people are a little bit or able to go and talk or more willing to go and talk.
We don't
Anybody
have anything in the chat.
Nothing in the chat? All right. Anybody
None
want
as
to
of right now.
speak up on the audio? Any questions? If not, speak up or forever hold your peace. All right, let's stop this. I'm going to stop the. Thanks for attending, and we hope you enjoyed this workshop. If you have questions, would like some more details about anything we discussed during this workshop, or if you or anyone at your organization would like information about training, support, or ways in which we can help you with your GIS needs, please contact me at frank@pandaconsulting.com or call me at 561-691-3277 and we can discuss how we can help you with your needs.